I woke up that morning to the sound of shattering glass, but it wasn't my windows. It was worse. I ran outside in my slippers, and there she was. Karen Miller. Hammer in hand, standing over the wreckage of my satellite dish like she'd just saved the world. She looked at me with that smug little grin and said, "That ugly eyesore is gone. You're welcome." My stomach dropped because that wasn't just a dish. That was a government-issued emergency receiver tied directly into Homeland Security's grid. With one swing of her hammer, Karen had turned a petty HOA squabble into a federal crime. I didn't scream, didn't threaten. I just stood there silent while she brushed her hands off like she'd just done community service. She mistook my quiet for weakness. "You ignored the letters," she said. So I took care of it myself. She strutted away, leaving wires dangling like snapped veins in my yard, completely oblivious that my cameras had caught the whole thing in crystal-clear 4K. What she didn't know, what I already suspected, was that the moment her hammer struck, two things happened. An alert went out to the federal network, and I had every second of her crime recorded from 3 angles. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. A restricted number. "This is the Emergency Communications Office. We detected a disruption at your station. Confirm status." I looked out the window where Karen was still preening, bragging to anyone who'd listen. "Status," I said evenly, "is that a civilian with a hammer decided she had more authority than the federal government." There was silence on the line. "Then we'll be sending someone. Stay on site." And right then, I knew Karen's little HOA crusade had just become the biggest mistake of her life. The SUV rolled up faster than I expected, black-tinted government plates. 2 men stepped out, sharp suits, faces carved from stone. They walked right past Karen, who tried chirping something about enforcing HOA compliance. They didn't even acknowledge her. They came straight to me. "Mr. Hale," one asked. I nodded. "Status is unchanged," I said. "Civilian destroyed the receiver at 0800 hours. Footage available on 3 cameras." Karen's head snapped toward me, her smile evaporating. "Footage? No, this is being blown out of proportion," she screeched. The taller agent fixed her with a stare. "Ma'am, what you destroyed was not consumer equipment. It was a federally commissioned receiver linked to DHS grid channels. That's destruction of federal property under Title 18, Section 1461 of the U.S. Code." For the first time, Karen wavered, but only for a moment. Entitlement is stubborn armor. She squared her shoulders, lifted her chin. "Oh, please. You can buy stickers and labels like that on Amazon. Don't try to scare me. I'll explain it to the board." He refused to comply with HOA rules, and I acted. I almost laughed. The agents didn't. One crouched over the wreckage, scanned a barcode, and the device beeped. Confirmation. Registered. Active now, inoperable. Karen's face drained of color. She muttered something about calling her lawyer about this being harassment, but no one was listening anymore. I should have felt triumphant, but the truth is, at that moment, I felt hollow. This wasn't just another HOA letter I could crumple up and toss. This was bigger. I thought about the years I'd let Karen run the neighborhood unchecked, her violation notices, her threats, her smug speeches about community standards. Maybe I really was the problem. Maybe I should have just caved, taken the dish down, avoided all this chaos. Standing there with federal agents on my lawn, neighbors peeking through blinds, I felt small, cornered, and honestly ready to give up. What if they blamed me too? What if Karen spun it so well that I became the villain? For one ugly second, I believed it. But then I saw her Karen standing tall again, barking at the agents, pointing at me like I was the criminal. She actually had the nerve to declare, "As president of the HOA, I had no choice but to act." And something inside me snapped back into place. That wasn't strength. That was desperation, dressed as authority. I realized then this wasn't about me being wrong or right. This was about someone who had abused power for so long she thought she was untouchable, and I had the evidence to prove she wasn't. I wasn't going to roll over this time. That afternoon, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Usually those were dull Karen at the head lecturing about mailbox paint while everyone nodded. Not this time. Every chair was filled, people lined the walls, phones out recording. Karen slammed her folder down. "This situation has been blown out of proportion," she declared. "I acted in the best interest of the community, and I expect full support from this board." But the room was quiet. Then Greg, the landscaping guy who never spoke, cleared his throat. "Karen, did you really destroy government property?" she snapped. It wasn't government property. It was an unsightly piece of equipment installed without approval. Another voice chimed in. "My nephew works for County Emergency Services. Those receivers are serious. They tie into disaster alerts." Karen flushed red. "That's just hearsay. You can't believe every rumor." I didn't have to say much. I sat in the corner, invited to provide a statement if needed, my footage ready to play. But the board didn't need me. Margaret, one of Karen's closest allies, folded her arms. "Karen, if this really is federal property, the HOA could be liable for allowing you to act on its behalf." Karen stammered. "No, this was me acting independently," Margaret shot back. "Then you abused your position. Either way, you've compromised us." One by one, neighbors spoke up, not just about the dish, but about years of petty tyranny. Fines for wreaths shouting over lawn chairs, threats slipped under doors. Greg finally said, "This isn't about the dish anymore. It's about whether you're fit to lead this board." Karen's eyes darted around, desperate for support, but found none. When she stormed out, no one followed. Someone whispered, "We should vote." And just like that, her crown cracked. By the next morning, the news spread like wildfire. Karen was out. The board had voted her down unanimously. 23 years of control gone in one night. But Karen wasn't the type to accept defeat. She stalked the neighborhood with a clipboard, knocking on doors, whispering to anyone who would listen. This time, though, doors closed. Smiles were polite, but cold. The spell was broken. And then, when that failed, she came for me. I was on my porch when she marched over, eyes blazing. "You need to call them off," she hissed. "The feds, whatever they are, they're harassing me." I tilted my head. "Karen, you dragged them here yourself when you smashed that dish." She glanced around. Neighbors were watching from their lawns, phones in hand. "Lower your voice," she snapped. "The HOA won't stand behind you if you keep acting like this." I smirked. "Good, because I won't need the HOA to stand behind me. But you might." Her nostrils flared. "Don't get cocky. I still have power here." I gave her a long look. "Not as much as you think. This isn't about paint colors or bylaws anymore. This one carries prison time." Her composure cracked. She muttered something and stormed off, but I could feel it, her empire was collapsing. Her desperation peaked a few days later when she dragged a lawyer onto my lawn. "There he is," she shouted, pointing at me. "That's the man defaming me, harassing me, trying to destroy my reputation." The lawyer, sweating in the sun, cleared his throat. "My client requests that you cease these slanderous claims, or we will pursue legal action." Before I could even respond, a gray-suited investigator appeared, Homeland Security this time, not just agents. His badge flashed and his voice was like steel. "Sir, I suggest you put that briefcase down. Your client is under federal investigation for destruction of government property. Any lawsuit will be dismissed the moment it's filed." The lawyer paled, stammered something about conflict of interest, and walked off, abandoned her, right there on the curb. Karen shrieked. "Coward! Useless coward!" Her voice cracked, hands shaking, clipboard slipping from her fingers. The investigator stayed calm. "Ma'am, you've been advised multiple times not to interfere with this property. Continued violation will result in immediate arrest." She spun toward the neighbors, begging for support. "You people don't understand. I was protecting the community. He's manipulating you." But the crowd only laughed, a low ripple crueler than shouting, because it meant she'd lost her audience. Phones recorded every second. Karen, once the terror of our cul-de-sac, was now its punchline. Her scream tore through the street before she ran. Actually ran back to her house. No stomping, no triumphant exit, just raw panic. The investigator turned to me. "She'll be charged within the week. Destruction of government property, interference with emergency communications. possibly obstruction depending on her behavior. I raised an eyebrow. Behavior, not her strong suit. He gave a thin smile, then walked away. I stayed on my porch neighbors gathering like a jury watching the once untouchable HOA president unravel completely. For years, she ruled with fines and threats. Now she was nothing but a cautionary tale. And that was it. Karen's downfall didn't need me to shout or fight. All it took was patience, evidence, and gravity pulling her down. She thought she was the law. Turns out the law was waiting for her all along. The lesson: some people build their power on fear. But the moment you stop being afraid, they've already lost.